everybody, it's Michelle Upton here, and today this video is an edited video of one that I did live on the Hero Arts channel on Facebook last week. So my aim for this video was to make 2 cards for the price of 1. So I've got this very large floral image, which is from the Hero Arts and Altenew collaboration set called Bloom and Grow. And what I've put into my Misty is 2 card bases. So they're top folding cards, pretty much standard size, and I've put them just butting up against each other in my Misty. So I'm now inking up this very large floral stamp with Hero Arts intensified black ink, and I'm just using my brand new little ladybird sort of pressure tool, which is so cute, to press down on my Misty and make sure I get a really good impression. Now, I've replaced the cards with some of this stamping mask paper because I'm going to be making a mask. So I'm just inking up that stamp again. It doesn't really need to be that well inked, and just pressing down gently. I don't need a really good impression. All I need to be able to see is the outline because I'm just using my sharp little scissors here and doing some fussy cutting to cut out my mask. So I'm not going to bore you with all of that fussy cutting. So yeah, the people watching me live on the Hero Arts Facebook page had to watch me fussy cut the whole thing. Anyway, I'm now just removing the backing sheet from this, and I find that this particular paper is a little bit sticky for my liking, so I try to sort of stick it to my skin first to remove a little bit of the stick from it, so that it'll be a little bit easier for me to remove from the card front. So now I've got out this stencil. This is called the Spiral Stencil from Hero Arts. It's an older stencil. And I'm grabbing out some inks. So I've got Pale Tomato, I've got Soft Cantaloupe, and then I've got Soft Vanilla. And I've got out my ink stand here to hold my ink pads in place. And as I'm adding the ink to this card, you can see I'm actually starting on the mask and dragging the colour out from the mask because I don't want to get any sort of harsh lines from the ink. Sometimes if you take the brush straight to a piece of cardstock, you get sort of funny imprints from the ink. So it's always good to remove a little bit of ink first, and one way of doing that is by starting your inking on the masking paper that you're using. Another way of doing it is, if you're inking just straight onto some cardstock, is start your inking off the cardstock and just sort of drag it on to the cardstock. So that's why quite often when I do inking, I use a non-stick craft mat to do it on. But with this one, because I've got the masking paper there, I can just go straight on because I can start my inking on that masking paper. All right, so I'm done with the cantaloupe. I'm now moving on to this soft vanilla. And this is a sort of, I decided not to go really bright yellow with this. I want a little bit of a softer colour with this. And I'm just sort of fading this out towards the right because I did want to keep a little bit of white space on my card on the far right-hand side. Now what I'm doing now, I'm just lifting up my stencil carefully to just see what it looks like underneath, to decide if I want any more colour. And I decided I did want a little bit more colour. And I had Kathy Rakusen's voice ringing in my ears saying nooks and crannies, nooks and crannies. It's very useful to go in a little bit darker and deeper with colours in the little triangle nooks and crannies of your image. So I'm going in right up close to that mask, right into the little sort of V-shaped notches where my mask is. All right, so that's pretty much done. So I've taken that off, and now I'm removing that masking paper, but I'm going to use that masking paper immediately on my second card because, of course, I cut the mask from the whole flower, and half of that flower is stamped on the other card. So yeah, again, getting 2 for 1. So as you can see, I've removed the rest of that backing paper off the mask. I'm going to cut it down. I cut off some of that mask because it was sort of rolling up where I'd already used it. I'm going to make sure it's adhered down to my work surface so it's not going to budge. And I'm going to start with my second lot of inking. So this stencil that I'm using now is called the Crossing Waves stencil. And for this one, I'm going to be using Distress Oxide inks. So I first coming in with this lovely dark blue, which is Prize Ribbon. And then I'm going to use Peacock Feathers and fade out to the paler green, which is Cracked Pistachio. All right, so again, I'm starting on the mask so that I don't get big blobs of colour where I don't want it, and sort of fading out from there. All right, so now I'm going in with the, which one was this one? This is the Peacock Feathers. Sorry, I'm just... My mind just sort of veered off in a weird direction there. Okay, so Peacock Feathers and then the Cracked Pistachio. And now I decided I wanted a bit darker, but I wanted a little bit more blue. So I've pulled out Salty Ocean. So I'm sort of going over the junction between the Peacock Feathers and the Prize Ribbon with the Salty Ocean. And now I'm coming in again to add in some darker colour right in close in the nooks and crannies, close to my mask there with the Prize Ribbon. Okay, so that is pretty much done, and I'll now remove the mask, and it's always very satisfying when you remove the mask after you've done some ink blending or stenciling, which I have here, and yeah, it's just so cool when you remove the mask. All right, so with these two cards, I decided because of the colours that I'd used, I was going to put different sentiments. By the way, I got a little bit of a fingerprint there, so I'm just using my sand eraser there to just remove that little bit of a inky fingerprint. So these two cards, because they have very different colour schemes, I went with quite different sentiments. So I decided that I was going to make the bluey green one into a sympathy card, but I wanted a happier occasion for the sort of red and orange and yellow one. So for the sympathy card, I'm using this old stamp set from Hero Arts called Remember, and then I'm using the relatively new Tulip Bouquet stamp set for the other card. So there's a lovely sentiment that you can see me using right here. It says, "For someone beautiful," and I've just sort of nestled that in on the right hand side of my flower. And I'm using the same ink that I used for the Hero Arts Intensified Black ink. Sorry if my head gets in the way, but sometimes your head just has to get in the way to make sure you've got things nice and straight. You can see I'm using my mini Misty this time because I'm only stamping a sentiment, so I don't need to use my large Misty. Okay, and I've used that lovely sentiment, "So sorry for your loss," on this sympathy card. Okay, I always stamp my sentiments more than once because I like to get a really intense black colour. Now I decided to add just a little bit more dimension, that I would colour in the flower just with some greys. So I've grabbed out some cool greys for this one here. So I've got C5, C3, C1 and C0, I think. And I'm just going to show you this one card. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, just each little step. So I started off with the darkest colour right in the little, again, the nooks and crannies. Then I'm using the next lightest colour to drag those, that little bit of shading out. Then I'm going to grab the next colour again to drag it out a little bit further, and one more time. So I'm using all four of those greys. I decided to use the cool greys with this because I thought it went much nicer with the blues and the greens rather than using warm greys. However, I did actually do a practice run of these cards before I started the video, and I used warm greys on the red and orange card to shade in my flower. During the live video, I only had enough time to shade in this one that I'm showing you right now. But, so I had one card left that didn't have any shading at all. And so I said, how about I actually colour it in colours, not in grey. So right at the end of this video, very shortly, you'll actually see what that card looked like. So the one that's shaded in red, orange and yellow, and I actually coloured it in colours. So wait until you see that right at the very end of the video. So thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you found this useful. I wonder if this is a new technique for you, for actually doubling up and stamping two cards at the same time. So you can see the warm greys versus the cool greys there. This is the sympathy card with the cool greys. Here is the beautiful card with the warm greys, and finally the one where I coloured in with colour. Hope to see you again next time. Bye.